As we all know, life contains some disappointments. Can I have an amen?
Amen.
2 months ago, I was in Paris, fortunately, for the Olympics. And there are so many great things about Paris. Its museums, its parks, its foods, I could go on. But there was one disappointment as well. That in all of Paris, I did not see a single mime. I'm reminded of this story. Have you heard this story before? Of how it was that a group of mimes, a gang of mimes, assaulted a man in Paris. Could not make this up. A group of mimes assaulted a man in Paris. And what they did to him was absolutely unspeakable. Sorry, that was a
joke.
Today's scriptures are dark. Speaking of assault, speaking of unspeakable things, today's scriptures are so very dark. In fact, did you hear that first reading from the book of Wisdom? When I hear those words, I like to imagine them in this evil, snarling, sneering voice, because it's one of the few passages in the Bible that's written in the voice of the bad people, of wicked people who are seeking the lives of the just and saying, let's revile them and torture them and put them to the test, because if they really are God's children, God will rescue them. God will deliver them. Yikes, that was dark. And yet, isn't there something about that human tendency to pull down others, to assault them, to attack them verbally, physically, in other ways? And I suspect if we were honest, we could probably think about the times when we've been attacked by others. And or if we were really honest, the times in which we've attacked others. Amen. Today's gospel contains what we refer to as Jesus' second passion prediction. Last week we heard him talk about how it was that the Messiah must suffer and die, but on the third day he would rise. Did you hear those words echoed in today's gospel? Jesus turns to his friends and says, the Messiah will suffer and die, but on the third day will rise again. The rising again part is the good news. The suffering and dying part of it? Yikes. It's as if the words of today's responsorial psalm could have been placed on Jesus' lips. In today's responsorial psalm, we hear those words, the haughty seek my life, the ruthless seek to destroy me. And we all know what happened in Jesus' story, right? Jesus suffered. Jesus died. Crucified. Today's scriptures cause us to think about the suffering that has been caused to us by others. Can you think of the times in your life when others have said or done things to you and or to those you love, which has caused some suffering in your life? The good news is found in today's scriptures. Because whereas our siblings of the Buddhist tradition say that life is suffering, they say life is suffering. It's a grim view. We as Christians recognize, as Catholics, we recognize that there is suffering in life, but there's also some hope that we have. James, in today's second reading, talks about how it is that sometimes we can have a target on us. Follow me? Where other people aim their darts and their arrows right at us. And he tries to explain why that is. Why is it that we find ourselves hurling darts and arrows at one another, trying to hurt them? And James, in his second reading, talks about some dark, dark images of jealousy and selfish ambition, envy and coveting, fighting and wars and killing. right? Think about the times when you've had the target on your back, when other people have come after you. For me, in a very personal way, I trace it back to 3rd grade, interestingly, because I loved to read when I was this tall. I loved to read. I would go to the library and get armfuls of books. So it probably was no surprise when in the 3rd grade I won the 3rd grade spelling bee. I read a lot of books. But what happened when I won the 3rd grade spelling bee? It was a sobering lesson. In this human tendency that we have, we often talk about crabs, how it is that crabs pull one another down. You don't have to put a lid on a bucket of crabs. Why don't you have to put a lid on a bucket of crabs? Because they'll pull one another down. No crab is going to get out of that bucket. Fast forward to 9th grade when I became the first Eagle Scout in my hometown. It was a tremendous moment for me personally, except that it made the rest of my high school years so unbearable. I could not wait to leave that little town in the cornfields of Ohio. Follow me? But I know that I'm not alone, that all of us has our own stories of suffering, which in moments of vulnerability we might be willing to share with one another, of how it is that we have suffered in life, and perhaps even how it is that we've caused suffering for others. Sisters and brothers, I'm excited. 5 weeks from now, Father Gianni is going to be with us from California. And he's the priest who wrote this Italian bestseller on angels. And he talks about how it is that our angels guide us and protect us even through the darkest valleys in life. When long-time relationships go sour, God's angels are with us. When we suffer a business venture that goes south, leaving us feeling desperation, got good news for you. God's angels are with us. When our children or grandchildren disappoint us, got good news for you. God's angels are with us, he says. It reminds me of that poem, Footprints. Have you heard that poem, Footprints in the Sand? Where in the darkest moments of life, as this person is reflecting on his or her life and all the scenes in their life and seeing 2 sets of footprints in the sand, this person notices that in the darkest moments of life, there's only 1 set of footprints. And that person yells at God and says, where were you? Where were you in those times of need, in those times of suffering, in those dark valleys of life? Where were you? And we all know what God said. God said, it was during those moments in life, your darkest moments in life, those are not your footprints. What hubris. I was carrying you through those dark moments. Sisters and brothers, that's the Christian hope that we have. As Christians and Catholics, that's the hope that we cling to, that suffering does not have the last word. Yes, there is suffering in life. Yes, others cause us suffering. Yes, we've caused others suffering, but that suffering is not the end. It doesn't get the final word. It's not the last chapter. Because what did Jesus predict in today's Passion prediction? That the Messiah would suffer and die, but then what? Rise again on the 3rd day. Sisters and brothers, let's hold on to that hope. Let's hold on to that hope that despite the suffering and pain and loss in life, which do not have the last word, that life and resurrection get the final word.